Alright, so this is my video of my project, and here's my first scene. I messed it up on purpose so that I could show all the translations and rotations and stuff. So in Visual Studio, here's my text file, and it's called Models and Scene. So if I go in here, and this is the plane, maybe I'll just explain this first. There's 5 models that I'm loading. Here they are. If you want to add more models, you can just put the name in here and then change the number, or take one out and change the number. Here's the camera position being read from the file. This is the models begin. This is the amount of models I'm loading. It's actually not the amount of models that I'm loading right now because I had a debug ball. Oh, it is 6. No. Yeah, it's only 11, so it doesn't really matter, I don't think. But so as long as you have, if you want to load 12 and you actually have 12, this number has to be 12. If it's 12 and you don't have 12, it's not a big deal, unless you go to try and read the one even though you can't read it because it's not there and it doesn't have a name. And here's all the lights. So by changing back to the position, by changing the background, so here it is again, I'll show you for reference. The background's kind of on an angle. If I stop this, change this back to 0, rerun it, now it's upright. Here's a wireframe guy as well, just to demonstrate that I can do wireframe, and I'll change that right now. So here's my is wireframe, and I change it to 0, and this guy's no longer wireframe, and he's kind of in a weird position, so we'll just move him back. So I removed his rotation on the Y, his post rotation on the Y, and actually I'll just load it to show you. So now he's more facing in a normal direction. Before he was kind of in an angled direction. And now pre-rotation, I'll change that back to 0, run it again, and he's back in the spot where he's supposed to be. So this is where he's supposed to be. You can tell by the light right in front of him. So the rest of the scene I'm just going to change back. So this cloud has its post rotation changed by 45 degrees on the x-axis, so I'm just going to change that back. And now it's flush, and it's got a purple light right underneath of it, so that's where it's supposed to be. We'll go back in here, stop this. And so that one fire elemental up top there is kind of huge, so I'll just change his scale back. So now we have all the models where they're supposed to be. So, but the models are the fire elemental here on the right hand side, so there's 2 of them. These little spheres, which are all a different variation of blue pretty much, because they're supposed to be raindrops. And then there's 2 clouds and the plane in the background. So that's the 4 models I've loaded, plus that's 11 actual models drawn to the screen. I'm just going to pull this up here. So they're all a specific color. They're all arranged in the scene using a combination of all this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to do the camera now. So the camera right now is just looking at the middle. It's looking at 0, 0, 0. So I'm just moving it to the right. I'm using the arrow keys. So that's left arrow to move left, right arrow to move right, up arrow to move back, back arrow to move forward, right shift to move up, and the numpad key 1 to move down. So I'm just going to leave it right down here. It'll change when I go to the lights anyways. So that's the camera. You can control that however you want. The scene kind of makes sense. It's two rain clouds raining on two fire elementals that can't really do anything about it, so it's kind of an interesting situation. So I showed you the ability to switch between wireframe. So now I'm going to show you my lights, which right now there are 5 on the screen. There's the 5 that are in view. So I did. So yeah, there was 12, and I'm missing a ball right here. That's kind of what I was pausing about. So I'm just going to exit out of here, turn this back to 12. And there's the ball. Okay, so there's a light here on the right hand side. It's a red point light right in front of that fire elemental. There's a green light here. On the left hand side, right in front of this fire elemental, there's a green light underneath this cloud, and there's a purple light underneath this cloud. And this is kind of replicating like a moonlight, so it's kind of an orange light inside of a sphere. So those are the 5 visible ones. Now there's also 3 lights that are lighting the whole scene. So there's one on the bottom in the middle, and it's kind of behind the camera. There's one to the right and behind the camera, and there's one to the left and behind the camera. So that's all 8 lights, and then I can move to different lights if I actually, yeah, okay, I was hitting the wrong button. So shift, this is the one that's behind the camera. It should be in the middle of the screen right there, but it's behind the camera when you start, so you can't see it. Here's the one in front of this guy, and then I'll just demonstrate that I can move. So that's moving my light to the left with A, and moving it to the right with D. Moving it forward, no, that's backwards. Backwards with W, forwards with S. And if I move it far enough, it'll be on the wall over here. Oh, there it is. And then if I do Q, it goes down, and E, it goes up. I can turn it off by pressing 9. I can turn it back on by pressing 0. And I can change the attenuation by pressing R, T. So R decreases, or increases, sorry. R, let me just go in here real quick. Where is it? Okay, so yeah, so R increases the attenuation of X. It decreases F decreases it on X. T increases on Y. G decreases it on Y. Y increases it on Z, and H decreases it on Z. So if I just go back in here, if I'm pressing R, it's going to get more dim. If I press F, it gets more bright. So that's on X, and then it'll eventually reach a point where it creates this giant black hole, and now you can kind of see through it. It's kind of an interesting effect. So if I take it back to a normal light size, which is right about here, if I press T, it makes it smaller. If I use G, like this is all calculated by multiples, so instead of me having to hit the button a ton of times to make it increase, it just increases the brightness a lot quicker. And then Y decreases a lot quicker, and also, yeah, Y controls a Z, which is also a multiple of the previous two, so if I mess with it, it changes drastically. So that's the attenuation. I can change the color, so right now it's white because I turned it off, so if I turn it off, turn it back on, it's white. F4, F5, and F6 will increase the RGB values. 4, 5, and 6 will decrease them, so it's white right now. I'm just going to get rid of all the green. And now it's purple. I could get rid of all the blue. And now it's red. I can turn it off, turn it back on, it's white. I can get rid of all the red. And now it's kind of a teal aqua color. So back to here. You can also select any light you want. So right now it's I went through 2 of them. I can change. I'll just hit Control or left shift. Sorry, and I can move this one around. That one's one in the back. This one's one of the forward ones. Or sorry, the one in the back on the left. If I just bring it far enough, it will eventually get there. Maybe I'm moving it farther away. Yeah, I don't know where it's at right now. It's impossible to tell. So I'm just going to go to the next one. That one's one of the back ones as well. So here's back to that ball there. Oh, what did I just do? Oh, right. Interesting. It's a weird effect. Alright, anyways, back to the video. So I believe that's everything that was asked for. So wireframe solid shading, I showed you that. All the lights, I showed all that. I showed you how the scene was set up, how the scene makes sense. The camera is interactive. I showed you you can follow anything. Also, I can go back in here, and I'm hitting tab to switch between the models, but I'm moving the light right now. So this is moving the light, and this is moving the model. I can move the lights or the models, doesn't matter. And it's just kind of climbing away there. Showed you all the translation, rotation, and scale, and then everything's a special color. There's 4 models, and there's 11 of them, I believe. So that's the whole video.